Okay, today we are tackling one of the most common rules you hear in academic writing. Avoid using I. It sounds pretty simple, right? But trust me, getting this right can be the difference between a good paper and a truly great one. It's a small tweak that makes your arguments so much more powerful and persuasive. So let's get into how to do it, and more importantly, why it actually works. Here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down the goal, which is something called objective tone. Then we're going to dig into why using the word I can get in the way. After that, we'll get super practical and look at how to flip personal sentences into academic ones. And to wrap it all up, I'll give you a simple method to make this whole thing second nature. All right, let's jump right into the big question. You've probably been told a million times not to use I, but have you ever stopped to wonder, what's the big deal? I mean, it's my paper. These are my ideas. Why can't I say so? It's a totally fair question, and the answer really gets to the core of what academic writing is all about. So, the whole reason for this rule, the entire point, is to achieve what's called an objective tone. And what does that mean? It means shifting the spotlight away from you, the writer, and shining it directly onto the ideas and the evidence you're presenting. So, what exactly is this objective tone? You can think of it as a style of writing that's both formal and neutral. The star of the show isn't your personal opinion or how you feel about something. Nope. The star is the data, the research, the logic, and the hard evidence you've put together. It's about presenting your analysis without filtering it through your own feelings. This right here shows that shift perfectly. Personal writing is all about the writer. I think, I feel, I believe. But in academic writing, the real power comes from the idea itself. Saying the data shows instead of I think the data shows is just so much more direct, more confident. It puts the evidence right where it belongs, front and center. Okay, let's move on. Now that we know the goal is a subjective tone, let's look at the specific reasons why I just doesn't work for that. This really comes down to meeting the expectations of academic communication. You know, using I kind of creates this little chain reaction of problems. First, it immediately makes your point sound like a personal thought, not a formal analysis. And because of that, it feels less objective, like you're just sharing your opinion. And what happens then? It ultimately weakens the authority of your argument and makes it all seem a bit less solid. And you've got to remember who you're writing for. Your professors are looking for you to show off your analytical skills. They want to see you work with evidence and research in a neutral, formal way. They already know it's your paper. You don't need to say, I think, to prove it. Your name is on the title page after all. All right, let's get to the good stuff, the practical part. This might all sound a little complicated, but the great news is that changing your sentences from personal to academic often just takes a few simple tweaks. This is where we learn how to build that stronger, more objective voice. And believe it or not, this is the big secret. In most cases, the best way to fix a sentence that starts with I think or I believe is to just delete that part. That's it. It's an act of subtraction that actually adds a ton of power. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a perfect example. The personal version, I think social media affects mental health. Sounds a little hesitant, doesn't it? It's like an opinion. But look at the academic version. Social media affects mental health. Boom. It's clear, direct, and it's a claim you can prove. Now, your job in the essay is just to back that statement up with evidence. The same exact logic applies when you're making a critical point. I believe this argument is weak puts all the focus on your personal belief, but simply stating, this argument is weak, that puts the focus squarely on the argument itself, which is right where you want it. You'll then follow that up with the reasons why it's weak. Now, here we see a second little trick. It's not just about deleting I think. Sometimes it's also about swapping out subjective words. Interesting is just a personal feeling, right? But words like noteworthy or significant, those are much more formal. They point to a quality of the results themselves, shifting the focus from your reaction to the data's actual importance. And I have to make this super clear. This is a very important note. While avoiding I is the general rule of thumb, it's not a universal law. Some subjects, especially in the humanities, might actually allow for some limited strategic use of I. So the number one rule is always check your specific assignment guidelines. If you're not sure, just ask your professor. Okay, so let's talk about how to make this a real habit. Just like any other skill, learning to write with an objective tone takes a bit of practice. So in this last section, we're going to walk through a simple, repeatable process you can use to level up your own writing. Here it is, your 4-step workout. First, when you're editing your draft, go on a hunt for sentences with I. A simple find search works wonders here. Second, just delete that personal phrase. Third, ask yourself, okay, what's the core idea here? And fourth, rewrite the sentence to make that idea the main subject. Simple as that. And here's a fantastic little tip for today's world. Use AI tools as your personal writing coach. Seriously, take a sentence you've written, pop it into a tool, and just ask, rewrite this sentence in an objective, academic tone. It's an amazing way to see different options instantly and start getting a feel for those formal writing patterns. So let's wrap this all up with the main takeaways. Strong academic writing always puts the focus on ideas and evidence, not opinions. And it does this by avoiding that personal language. The best way to get better? Practice editing your own work. And, this is a big one, read other academic writing to get a natural feel for the style. I want to leave you with this final thought because it just perfectly captures everything we've talked about. Shifting your whole mindset from what I think to what I can prove is the absolute key to unlocking a more powerful, more persuasive academic voice. Thanks so much for tuning in.